Hello everyone, and welcome to my Puppet Pals recreation of my experience with ECMP 355 this spring. So when this class began, I found myself to be pretty tech savvy and have a pretty good idea of how technology was used for education, and so I kind of figured that this class may be a walk in the park, which is why you see me here, depicting myself walking through a park. And I chose to represent myself initially as a construction worker because although I felt like I knew what I was doing, I was ready to go to work. But this class definitely was a reality check and reminded me that I definitely had a lot more learning to do. So one of the first things that we were asked to do was to develop our PLN, which is our personal learning network. And I threw myself out in space here because that's kind of what a PLN is. You're really just throwing yourself out there and reaching out to others and trying to grow professionally through technology and through other means. So some of the best ways that I've done this is through Twitter and through blogging and being able to connect to other educators that way. And I had done a little bit of that before this class, but this class definitely asked you to really put yourself out there a little bit more and ask yourself to reach out to others and try and grow professionally in many different areas. So again, I was still ready to work here, and that's why I'm still depicting myself as this construction worker. And the best part about this was the other people in my PLN. And here I'm going to depict the other people as a fairy. And the reason I depict them as a fairy is because these other people really allowed me to grow and grow and grow and grow. My PLN kept growing not because of the work I was doing, but because of the people that were connecting with me through my PLN. So through Twitter and through commenting on my blog, people in my PLN allowed me to grow professionally. And although I may have started out here, I truly grew throughout this semester through my PLN and through the others that were involved with me. So the next thing we were asked to do within this class was to do a tech presentation with a couple of partners. And I did mine with Marissa and Mike Noasad. And I depict this as a talk show because this is kind of what it felt like. It was our first time presenting online, which is definitely a different experience because you're talking to a computer instead of a classroom full of colleagues. And talking to a computer is definitely different because you're not getting immediate reactions or feedback. You're just talking into a computer and hoping that everyone is listening. So it felt like it was a bit of a show. And we were kind of the talk show hosts. We talked through it, and our classmates learned a lot from us from what we heard. And we chose to present on Socrative and Kahoot, which are two cool and fun assessment ways to use in the classroom using technology. So through this tech presentation, we were able to not only inform our classmates of a couple new tools, but also try out a new tool ourselves, which was presenting online. So it felt like a talk show to me, and I'm happy with how that presentation went. So next was our major learning project, and you may be able to tell by the visual in front of you how I felt about that project sometimes. And it's not because I didn't enjoy it, it's because it truly was challenging. I realized that learning something new is definitely a challenging thing, and I often felt like these two guys in front of you, a little bit crazy, perhaps a little zombified, because you put in a lot of work, and you realize how difficult it can be when things come up. You know, life is busy and life is crazy, and you want to dedicate a lot of time to learning something new, but sometimes you don't always have that time. And so there's a lot of adaptation and a lot of things you have to change along the way. But in the end, learning something new is a great experience. And although it may not seem like it at the time, but once you get to the end and you realize what you've learned by documenting the whole process, it really allows you to look back and kind of enjoy the process that you may not have been able to enjoy so much along the way, because it was a little bit of an explosion, and things were a little bit crazy. And oftentimes, your frustration grew and grew and grew and would fight with each other and would cause some problems along the way. But I like this project because it asked you to challenge yourself and asked you to learn something new, and it really did pay off in the end. So, in closing, overall, it was a great class. And although I may have sometimes felt like the person you see in front of you now, who most of you should know as the Grinch, it challenged me and it asked me to push my knowledge. Like I said, coming into the class, I felt pretty tech savvy and I felt pretty confident. And I referenced a walk in the park at the beginning, but it certainly wasn't that at times, because no matter how much you think you know, there's always so much more to know. And learning never really stops. We can always continue to learn regardless of our starting knowledge or not. So even though at times, like I said, I maybe felt a little grouchy, like this guy, being challenged and challenging myself, and I wasn't scared to do that throughout this course. But throughout the challenges, in the end, ultimately, I come back to that same walk in the park and feeling a lot more jolly and a lot more happy with what I've accomplished, and knowing that there is no end. ECOMP 355 may be ending for the spring semester, but my PLN and learning new things and challenging myself and putting myself out there really will never have an end, and I don't think that it ever should. As educators, we commit ourselves to lifelong learning, and that shouldn't be taken lightly or taken for granted. So I am coming back to this walk in the park, and although it wasn't easy, it was definitely a great experience.